Councillor Malcolm Mackay. I'm the councillor for Cernacre and chair of the licensing committee, but not this subcommittee.
Our legal advisor.
I'm Helen Ward, legal advisor.
Committee clerk.
Jordan.
Senior licensing officer.
Lorraine Neal.
The applicant, certificate holder.
Andy Starr, secretary of the ACA.
Amanda Gobel, committee member of the ACA.
Objector representative.
That's me. My name is Rachel Rodwell, councillor of Allington and Bridge Ward.
Can I ask that all parties confirm that they've received a copy and are aware of the subcommittee hearing procedure? The subcommittee will allow all parties to put their case fully and make submissions to the panel within a reasonable time frame. The procedure would take the form of a discussion led by the subcommittee. Any persons in attendance behaving in a disruptive manner may be directed to leave the meeting, after which such person may submit to the subcommittee in writing any information which that person would have been entitled to give orally had the person not been required to leave the meeting. If it is not possible, they may be allowed to speak at the chairman's invitation. I will now ask that all subcommittee members confirm they have pre-read all the papers and other documentation regarding the hearing, of which I have.
We have. Confirm I have.
Lorraine Neal, Senior Licensing Officer, will now briefly outline the application.
Morning, members. Members are being asked to consider and determine this application to vary the club premises certificate for Allington Community Centre, Castle Road, Maidstone, ME16OPZ. The application has been submitted by Allington Community Association and is attached as Appendix 1 to the report. The application seeks to remove a condition from Annex 3, the licence. The condition is all doors and windows shall be kept closed when live or recorded music or karaoke or amplified sound or voice is taking place. There is no intention to amend any of the licensable activities or the current hours. The application was correctly advertised and there have been 24 comments received from other parties. These comprise of 9 objections and 15 support comments. These are shown in the table at page 5 and are attached in full at Appendix 3. The plans for the premises are attached as Appendix 2. After consideration of all the information provided by parties in attendance today, the guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Authority's Statement of Licensing Policy, members' options in relation to this application are to modify the conditions of the certificate or reject whole or part of the application. And that's it, members.
Thank you, Lorraine. Do any of the panel members wish to ask any questions?
Yeah, I suppose it would be fair to ask. Have you had complaints previously from those living opposite your premises?
Sorry. Not that we're aware of, certainly not people that have come to us to mention anything. So, no, I think we've had one that Lorraine notified us about, and this is probably the only one that we've had that I'm aware of, certainly. We've only been with the club.
So yeah, we'll do. This is for the licensing officer in particular, so we can ask that of the applicant.
Gives me time to practice that one again.
There were brief complaints around about the summer for the first time actually this year, and those complaints obviously were not particularly sort of a late sort of nature. They were just generally noise. And then I I spoke to Mr. Starr at that time and reminded him of the condition that doors and windows must be kept shut. And we discussed what the alternatives were, which was to basically put in an application to remove the condition. But I would say there was probably 2 complaints in the summer. That was it.
Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask the applicant now, Andrew Starr, to make his case. Thank you.
I think, yeah, from our perspective, you know, like a lot of people these days, we run the ACA voluntary. We was faced with the possibility of it closing back in, it was pre-COVID. So we've sort of taken over responsibility the last sort of 4 years or so, I guess. Feels about 20 years, I don't mind saying. And every day is a learning day, I'd say, with what we're doing. We do this part-time on the back of day jobs, families and everything else. But I think we feel some loyalty to where we live to keep the place open. We, you know, not only do we offer events for a wide range of ages that use the premises, we have preschool that use it. They use it now 52 weeks a year, which is good at fairly low cost for people in the area. And something that we're constantly asked is, can we put events on, etc., for the families, for different people, for adults, for kids, etc. We also work very closely with Castle Colts, the football team down there. That relationship's a lot stronger than what it used to be. I think we feel we're a bit bigger together as opposed to opposite each other. You know, they share the fields. We don't have any changing facilities or anything like that, so it's a bit of an odd setup. That being said, the Orchard Ground's the home pitch for Castle Colts, which is a club that goes back to a long, long time, as you guys probably know from your different communities, having played against Castle Colts over the years. So, and it's something that it's quite nice for us to be part of in our community. Regarding this application itself, it's no more really than wanting just to have a bit more comfort for the people that use the facilities by having the doors and windows open. We totally respect the noise situation and the need to be responsible for that. That's something that we do work hard on in trying to police as much as we can. We rely heavily on, obviously, the venue being rented out for various parties and stuff for the local community. It generates a lot of revenue for us, which again, you guys will know better than us is essential for the upkeep of the property. You know, since we've been down, I'm pleased to say that I know we were fortunate to have a couple of government grants before our time through COVID when the place was on its knees, literally. But since then, we're maintaining good revenue and that we're profitable and that we are able to, and has spent a lot of money on the upkeep of the premises. We've had to literally replace big parts of the roof, the heating, electricity, ceilings, plumbing, and the list is continuous. And there's still many things that need doing, and therefore, like I say, the ability to be able to hire it out for events and stuff is really important to us. And also the events that we put on. And again, I can't stress enough the fact that we're doing it voluntary. So again, it's that fine line in trying to have enough events throughout the year that is keeping interest, but not too many that we can't support it. As I say, with the doors and windows and the fact that our premises does cover the patio area as well, it's not just the inside nature of our premises. We feel that by having the doors and windows open, it's just a better environment for the people that are using it, especially in the summer months. And yeah, don't see it as a bigger thing than that really, but I totally appreciate, like anything in life, people will have a different view. I don't know if you've got anything to add, Amanda?
I think it's also fair to say that when the complaints came in the summer last year, we did 2 big family committee events. One was our Family Fun Day. The other day was we did a whole music day outside, which were covered by TENS licences. So, and we're looking at the dates of when the complaints came in, they were around those family events that we put on, and we utilised the field, which is why we applied for the TENS licence. So the TENS actually covered us for music up till midnight and live music outside. So as an association, we fully appreciate that there were a few complaints around that event, but they were covered by TENS licences, and we always put in a TENS licence. Even if we feel we don't need it and we just have music on our patio, which is covered by our premises licence, we will still put in a TENS licence to ensure that everything is covered from our perspective.
Thank you. Now, the panel members will ask questions if they have them. I would like to start first. Are you aware that the Live Music Act 2012 negates the requirement for closing the windows up until 11 o'clock at night?
Thank you, Amanda. It's something, we had looked into, and Dwayne kindly mentioned it in one of our last calls, I think, before having the hearing, and there was actually, I think that was part of the confusion we had as well, because obviously when we've been doing our research, we've seen that, and we know that supersedes our licence, which was 2003 in that regard. So that was quite reassuring and pleasing to hear, obviously. I think it was just the fact, because we did contemplate whether we should withdraw the application, but I think because there's understandably been a certain amount of noise created around this now with social media now and everything else, it's so different to what it used to be, isn't it? You've got 85,000 people's opinions and thoughts and things that you just wouldn't be aware of before, and I think it's just nice that it's transparent. It's another opportunity for us, regardless of what happens today, to go back to people with the facts that licence has changed, like you say, like you mentioned, that we can refer to. There's not many events we have in the year that go past 11 o'clock, so that would cover us in most cases, to be fair. It is the likes of New Year's Eve. The odd social gatherings that we may have where we're extended till, say, midnight, but again, even with bands, we'd ensure that they finish by 11:30 and they're gone, and that's purely because of paying the staff and getting staff to work those hours. That in itself is a challenge, and again, it's that strange setup that we have. We're all doing this voluntary, yet we have a limited company that's part of the association with a managed bar and people that we have to employ and manage. So, we're always taking everything into consideration, but it's good to know that, and it was pleasing to hear, because at least we know we have that to support us as well going forward.
Thank you. Any of the other panel members have any questions? Yes.
Thank you. Just to pick up on that point, so obviously the condition subject to, audience of not over 500 doesn't apply until 11 p.m. You've mentioned New Year's Eve and the odd social gathering. Just to be clear, are you asking for, on those occasions, that doors and windows can still remain open beyond 11 p.m. on those occasions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, just to make that clear. I think that's something, it makes sense we've got to this stage, and we would appreciate that option if at all possible.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, can I ask, is that so that people can access the premises, or is it purely for comfort of people inside? So I'm just thinking, obviously, the committee will make a decision on this, but a variation to the condition to allow, access and egress, people coming in and going out, or is the intention that the condition comes off entirely so that people within who are in there not leaving are cooler, or, as you say, more comfortable, as you said?
I think we probably can both answer this one, but do you want to go first, man?
I think it covers both options, really, because the way, if you look at the plans of the premises and the way the building is set out, the patio is kind of within the centre of the actual building itself, and you can access from the lounge bar and the hall onto the patio. And obviously, you know, we do have smokers that go down the club, so they need to have access to go outside to smoke. It only takes one person to open those doors out onto the patio to go out to smoke. We're relying on those people to close those doors. If they don't close those doors, then obviously we are breaching our licence conditions. So I think to have that variation put in place would obviously negate a lot of further problems for the association.
Yeah, I think that would be my point. That would be my point as well. Really, it's more just for the practical side of things. As Amanda mentioned, you know, if people want to go outside to smoke or whatever, we have to open the doors somewhere. And also, like I say, it's more, especially in the summer months or anything like that. It's just that having some fresh air circulating. I think people look at it slightly differently since COVID as well. Now I'm certainly a lot more conscious of it than I ever have been before. People do ask, which again, it's something that we've not had before. It's nice to have the option of having windows open and stuff. I mean, for us, it's another thing that in an ideal world we'd have them shut, because it's another thing that we have to, from a security perspective, with the bar staff at the end of the night, it's another thing we have to check and monitor. But yeah, for the reasons we said, we think it would be a good option to have.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just a thought, I mean, this is something which is kind of not too relevant, but lots of community centres and things obviously have heating, but some odd ones have AC. Have you ever thought about putting that in for this, or have you got any?
I think if any other grants are available, it's something we'd certainly be interested in looking at, I'm sure. But you know, as I said, we're a charity. We have to manage our finances very carefully. We have some money in the bank that is essential for anything that goes wrong, because that's it. If anything happens, we have to fix it. And again, like I say, with the preschool open 52 weeks a year, the heating bill is something that, as you can imagine, is going up. It's not going down. With all those little kids running, even with those kids running around, it's still something that it's a big haul. Yeah, we do need. It's something we could certainly consider, but we're certainly nowhere near that at the moment.
Thank you. Does the objector, Councillor Rodwell, have any questions of the applicant?
It was really it's so important that the impacts on the people that use the ACA are protected. So it's about health and well-being. It's about not catching viruses, and I can really understand that it could be very uncomfortable and stuffy in the summer months. And but there is also the impact on the wider community, and I know there's been 2 complaints that have come to light here, and I know that there are 9 objections. But I'm thinking that, you know, a change in the terms and conditions of the licensing would negate that protection put in place, so that residents don't experience the noise levels that they have been. I know that there has been some video evidence submitted of the level of noise that has, and it was actually submitted as part of...
The committee haven't had any video evidence.
Okay. I understand that was sent as an attachment by the resident with whom I'm representing. For me, it's the residents have a right as well to not have their lives and their home lives disrupted by loud music. This particular resident I'm representing, one of the occupants is a shift worker, so she has to go to bed quite early sometimes, and has been in a situation where she's not been able to sleep. Ironically, sometimes the windows and their windows have to be shut so that they don't hear the level of noise on the occasions of the events. So by removing this situation, my resident is saying that the proximity with where she lives is already causing a significant amount of disruption when the events are going on. So by removing this, it is
Sorry, Councillor. This is for questions 4.
Oh, okay.
Rather than stating your case.
So what mitigations if it wasn't to happen that the windows were allowed to be shut, what other mitigations could be put in place? And I was going to ask about the air conditioning situation. And is it something that the community can fundraise or to help you with in order to have air conditioning within?
I think for us with priorities at the moment, air conditioning could certainly join the list, but there's many other things that would take priority, unfortunately, because of the upkeep of the building and the age of the premises. I think regarding, as I say, I honestly don't see it as a big thing. We don't have many events that go on past 11 o'clock at night a year. I'd say it's less than 10. I'd struggle to name 10. And as I say, we had the coronation, anything big like that we will have out on the field where we would be applying for a TENS licence. Any of those events now we apply for a TENS licence, which almost negates that anyway, and covers us for the whole field. So I honestly don't see it as a big thing that changes anything. I totally appreciate it must be frustrating for if you live that close to a premises like that, but equally it's an awkward one. But if you are living next to one of those centres like that, we obviously will do whatever we can. We're very conscious of trying to monitor noise. We've mentioned to the staff when we're hiring the hall out privately, because again, as I say, we do this voluntary. We're not down there every night. I struggle to get down there 1 or 2 times a week with my wife at the moment, just with everything else that's going on at home and with work. And as I say, and that's the same for everybody on the committee. And the staff can only do so much. We don't have people board standing behind the pumps. We try and limit how many staff we have on because of the cost. And again, it's just how they manage it. If you've hired the hall out privately, someone opens the window, you're not always aware of that. Certainly this time of year where curtains are drawn, we do speak to them, but we are trying to manage the noise. Like I say, it's something we're very mindful of, and especially since this has come to light as well. Obviously, it's something we take seriously. We're trying to manage that as best as we can. We've just, for the right reasons, installed a jukebox. That's not to make more noise, it's to have more control of the noise. That's all controlled now by the staff, the volumes, etc. It's all done behind the bar. Before, at events, we'd have, people would be able to hire the boombox and that type of thing. You don't really have any control of that, obviously. But, as I say, the jukebox has become really popular and it's something we can control now. So I think that in itself has made a big difference. But as I keep mentioning, all these things are cost, and that's where we're struggling. I don't know if you've got anything to add.
And I think the other point to make is where people have complained about the noise is we have had incidences where both Andy, myself, the treasurer have had phone calls late at night on our mobile phones to say the music down the ACA is horrendous, can you turn it off? The club's been closed. We've not even been there, there's no staff there, it's actually closed. So there are properties around the perimeter of the field that are having parties late at night, and unfortunately people are assuming that it is the ACA, which you would quite rightly do because it's the entertainment hub for the community. So that's just a point that I would like to make.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Would that be the case for people that live very, very close to the ACA to make that mistake?
Yes.
Understandably, I can see why. As I say, I've had calls before, and I'm at home. It's the club's shut because we know the staff that are working, or I've even shut the club before. But as I say, unfortunately, there are houses that back on all the way down one side. There are houses very close that are opposite the front of if any of them are having loud music or whatever, that's their business, obviously. And again, that's all been quite new to me, the 11 o'clock, the nuisance law and everything else. I know I look very old, I'm in my 50s now. I never really knew that was existing quite as it did, so it's been quite interesting to know that generally. So, but yeah, I think it's a good point that Amanda makes, that yeah, we have been mistaken before for it being us, and it's not.
So I'm here to represent my resident who lives adjacent to the property, to the ACA, and when the window where the other occupant within the property lives is literally backing on to the ACA. So would you suggest that when the noise has been heard, that would be some other venue because it's right next door? Is it not possible that what she is hearing is actually coming from the ACA?
Thank you. A legal advisor would just like to mention something.
Thank you. Sorry. I don't think there has been any suggestion that the person who you're representing is necessarily one of these people that has contacted them, and also as part of hearings generally, cross-examination isn't really permitted, so questions would go through the chair.
Thank you so much for the clarification. Thanks.
Any further questions? I just have one small one of mine. How long has the community centre been established there?
That's been quite a nice part of the research I've been doing. Again, because it's interesting that I've lived in Allington since it must be about 19 years now. I was in Ditton previously, so always aware of the ACA. I used to play for Ditton against Castle Colts, and so I've known of it for a long time. But to answer your question, I was doing some research because you speak to everybody who's been involved in the community for a long time, and it's amazing how many stories of how the place started, when it started and everything, because that's what happens, doesn't it, in communities. And it was quite nice. There was a guy who was doing some work on our roof, Mr. Bushell, who lived opposite, and it was his son that was doing the work, and he said that his dad has found some letters and he wanted the ACA to have them. And it was literally the ACA, I think it was 1979, Mr. Bushell wrote to the Maidstone Borough Council at the time, asking for the opportunity the land that we're on used to be part of, there was an orchard at the back, but it was a refuge site, similar to the one that's a bit further down Castle Road, just over the railway line. And he was asking if it would be at all possible to turn that into a playing field, because his son loved football. They had moved up from South London and had nowhere to play. They used to play, Waitrose car park was then even back in the 70s, and that's where they used to play football, and they were constantly getting chased off the car park for obvious reasons. And the letter was lovely because it's the guy who's written to the council, 1979. He had a lovely request, or a lovely response saying, thank you for your letter, but obviously nothing happened. I think it was a year later, he wrote back to the same councillor, and I forget the councillor's name at the time, and he got a lovely response saying, yes, we will look into it, thank you for your persistence, because he was asking with the army that were based locally, if, even if they could help, because again, even back then conscious of funds and everything else. And yeah, long story short, I think it was another year on, it was turned into a playing field. That's when Castle Colts joined, and because of that, that's when the ACA was built. And I think it was 1982, 84, something like that. Again, so I've not got the letters with me, but I've got them all framed with the Castle Colts. It's actually quite nice now, because when people are talking about it, it's the actual facts, and they're the original typed letters as well, which is quite nice. And that's another part of what we want to do down there, is trying to get photos from when it first was built, and that really early period, because I think history, lovely being in this hall today, it's nice to put it all together. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Long answer.
Just to clarify, it's about 40 years then, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to invite Councillor Rodwell, the objector, to provide your comments on the application.
I just wanted to reiterate what my resident has said, that this is not about not supporting the ACA. The ACA is a community hub. You provide a wealth of different experiences for people, and obviously the grounds to actually host various events. It's never been about that, and it's not been about, unless you support we will lose you. I mean, it's something that we value. I guess it's just about the well-being of the people that live around you, being a good neighbour, and being supportive of the people that will be hearing the increased noise. Is a huge issue for those people. It's not many people, but it is a few people, and it's important that they have their voice. I know you intimated, Andy, about the social media. It's become huge to the point of when residents have stated how they feel, they have been shut down in a way. And I think it's really important that it's fair. And so when we consider the health and well-being, which is really important of the people that use the ACA, equally, it's really important to consider the health and well-being and the right to be able to live in your home without disruption. So it's a balance. We really want you to do well. We want you to expand. We want the community to continue to enjoy all the events. But it's also about taking stock about, how can you ensure that the minimal disruption is in place for residents that are adjacent to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Do any of the panel members wish to have any questions for Councillor Rodwell? No. Does the applicant have any questions for Councillor Rodwell? No. Okay. Before this hearing's closure, I'll invite the objector, Councillor Rodwell, to make your closing remarks, if any.
I think I value the opportunity for both sides to be able to say how we feel and to be able to express reasons why we are taking the stance that we are. I just hope that for the sake of everybody, that the outcome, whatever it is today, and I think I know where it's leaning, that within that you will continue to respect the residents and their right to have a good night's sleep when they need to. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Rodwell. I'll now invite the applicant, Andrew Starr, to make your closing remarks, if you would, please.
Yeah, been total agreement of that. I mean, the last thing we want is to be upsetting the closest people to us. As I say, we are there for the community for all the reasons I've mentioned. I like to think we have good relationships with most of our neighbours. Only very recently, just with the huge cost to the club with trying to sort out local neighbours where we have trees that we're responsible for that are overhanging people's properties. That's something that we take seriously and we'll try and rectify. That's one of many, many examples of things that we're doing to our most local residents. Totally get it, and that's what we're here for. We wouldn't be here otherwise. But totally agree.
Thank you. Have members of the subcommittee got any further and final questions for either party?
Just one question. I assume obviously that there is sort of like a schedule for all these events. Is that publicly available for anyone to look up, so that if there are events coming up that do end up going to midnight, they're advertised to the public so they can see that?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think that's another thing with technology now. We've possibly been a bit slow on the uptake of that, just with long stories in trying to establish our own website. Again, we're all doing this voluntary, as I mentioned. So again, it's a great thing having it. It's another thing policing it, updating it and keeping it up to date. Where we are very strong is on Facebook and with our certainly all members, whereby we share an itinerary of upcoming events. That's important to us because we need them to be people to apply and hopefully that we can sell the tickets. That's certainly an area we've improved on. I think we could still do more on that. We do put things up. We have some post boxes and notice boards that we utilise as well. As I say, it's all about us trying to let as many people know as possible so that we can fill the events. It's possibly something we could do more of. But one thing, we keep our feet on the ground. It's very easy to almost put all these things in advance, but you have some commitment to carry those through. So we try and do it probably every quarter, I'd say, is very realistic as to the events that we do are going to be supporting. We will certainly have ideas of things that we want to do, but through various circumstances, sometimes as simple as 5 of the key committee people are away on holiday, it's almost unfair to run an event because the people that are left, it's too much on them. But yeah, to your point, it's something we are advertising, but I think we could still do that a bit better.
Thank you. Yep.
Closing remarks. I mean, clearly, the ACA is a facility that does a lot of good in Allington and surrounding areas. But we as a committee must balance that between the residents of Allington. And I would urge you, if your wishes are granted, to do more in mitigating the noise and do what you can. I mean, I live in a community which has not quite. It has a community centre. I could say, unfortunately, it doesn't have a bar. But the facilities are rented out for, and you know, so I'm aware that noise, you know, can spill over into my house. You know, I live quite some distance away from it. But we should all be mindful of each other.
We are also in the process of looking at purchasing one of the, I don't know what the actual word is for it, Claire's got, where you can measure the decibels of sounds. We're actually in the process of purchasing one of those as well, so that when we are doing these big summer events, which is when the noise does tend to be more outside with the community events, then actually we can control it at a level that is suitable for everybody.
I think just on that, it's always, it's just, it comes down to everybody's got a tolerance that is acceptable and isn't acceptable, and that is also difficult, I think, for us at times, isn't it? As to, you know, we will often, if we've got an event on, especially since this has come to the fore, you'll see me standing. I'm not stalking people's houses, but I'm literally standing on the main road, almost. Is that too loud? Yeah. Is that acceptable? Can I hear it? Or, but it is no more than that, unfortunately. It's that. But yeah, we're conscious of it, and we certainly will be doing even more to be on top of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, Helen, can you confirm whether there are any further matters to be raised or resolved before the hearing is closed?
Thank you, Chair. There is one matter. Councillor Rodwell, you mentioned a video. The subcommittee have not been sent a video as part of the evidence that they're going to consider. Obviously, it is important that they are aware of any relevant evidence that might be put towards them. So, Chair, with permission, can I just ask Lorraine, who might be able to provide a bit more clarification on that? Thank you.
I do apologise, it is my error. There was a video, short clip, taken at night of the sound coming from the club. And you could quite clearly hear the music. So I do apologise, I should have circulated that, but with everything that's been going on, I missed attaching it to emails to people.
Is it possible?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Lorraine. Do you have a copy of the video available today? So, Chair, the situation is that you could review this video if you wanted, but before you do so, you need consent of all the parties. I would suggest that you pause and allow the applicant to see the video. If indeed you still wish to show the video, you pause and allow the applicant to see it. Now, it is contingent on their consent of the video being included in today's proceedings, because it wasn't served in advance, and if they're happy, at that point the subcommittee can watch the video, and then you can close the hearing and move to deliberation. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's only right that we do pause the proceedings and you have a look at the video and then come back to us and advise us what your decision is.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of today. It's, as I say, if it's a one-off event, it'd be good, nice to know what the date was, because we can probably, where hopefully we'll know exactly what that was. But absolutely, yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you. I think actually I'd like the date and time as well, please. Thank you.
Chair, would you like to
Okay, we'll adjourn the proceedings at 10:40 and recommence in, say, 10 minutes. 10 Okay, everyone. It's 10:55, and we'll reconvene the meeting. Before I ask each party to provide their submissions on the video evidence, I'd just like to ask a couple of questions, a fact on it. We'd like to know if the video is taken by a third party or the party who you're representing, Councillor Rodwell. We'd also like to know a date and time for them, and whether they were taken from inside the house or outside the house. Thank you.
The videos were taken from, actually they were both taken from the back of the garden, outside of the house. I can get the dates and times for you, but I've been trying to access them whilst you were in a break, but I couldn't find them. I do know that the second video was taken at 12:09 a.m.
Thank you. But the videos weren't taken by you, or were they?
One was taken by me, one was taken by my daughter who lives with me.
Thank you. Okay. I'd now like to ask Councillor Rodwell to make a submission on this information.
So this information has only just been seen, and I'm just wondering if it had have been received in the time when the original email, the original objection came in, would you have had time to review this properly and sort of ascertain from the resident this information, and would it have made a difference to the outcome possibly of this meeting?
Are you asking us a question, or?
So I'm so sorry, Councillor Drabinski. Yes, would it have made a difference if you had seen the video beforehand to this meeting, or is it just?
I don't think we're at liberty to say that. We'll have to look at everything together. But would you like to make a submission?
No, it's okay.
Thank you. Mr. Starr, would you like to make a submission on this information?
Yeah, of course. Just from what the lady was saying regarding when you think the dates were, I think we may be able to help on that, because we did have 2 family fun days on the bank holidays in May and August, and we did apply for tenants licence for both of those. If it was 12:09, 9 minutes after time, again, certainly a learning for us. Can only apologise if that was the case, but yeah, we would certainly be aware that we should have finished at midnight. It is hard to make out on those videos where exactly it is and stuff. That was the only thing I would say, but I assume it was our patio. From again, it's an assumption from what you're saying where you took the videos from. So
okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, just to add to that, as Andy mentioned previously, we did just have a boombox down the club that was accessible for people to play live music outside. That has since been locked away, and we've also brought in the jukebox that Mr. Starr mentioned earlier, so we can actually control the sound ourselves. Because when the boombox was being used, obviously we would be there, but if we were to walk away and people were connecting with their phone, they were spinning the music up, which obviously we had no control over. So that's another thing that we've kind of put in place to control that noise level.
Okay, thank you. Members of the subcommittee, would you have any other questions for either party?
Just very quickly, that changed the boombox. Was that done after August, or was that previous to that?
At the end of last summer, the boombox was put away for everybody, and because we were aware that it was being used by people that shouldn't be using it. The jukebox has only just been put in place because obviously we were trying to find the right contract that was kind of financially viable for the association, but that is now fully in place.
And Oh, sorry, just very quickly. Just and every time that you've run up to midnight, you've had a tent license, was it? So you've always covered everything. If you are running past midnight, there's always been one in place, hasn't there?
Just to address Councillor Rodwell's comments regarding when we viewed the video, can I just say for my part, I don't think it would have changed anything if I'd seen it before, after, or in the middle. We've seen it, and I'm glad we have seen it. But I don't think it would alter anything as far as I'm concerned. The other councillors feel the same way. Maybe they wish to comment or not.
Okay, thank you. Now, Helen, is there anything else to add before I declare the meeting closed, the hearing closed?
Nothing further. I think just one more point to pick up from what Councillor Rodwell said about asking for clarification. Even if members had seen it, they wouldn't have been asking for clarification on it. It's still part of the evidence that they will consider along with everything else that they've heard. Okay. Thank you, Chair. On that basis, no more. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I now declare this hearing closed. The subcommittee members, accompanied by a legal advisor only, will now enter into the closed session to deliberate. The subcommittee will return from closed session in 20 minutes? Yeah. Actually, no, we'll make it half an hour. So we'll make it 11:30. Okay. So we're back here at 11:30. Thank you very much. Good afternoon again, everyone. We're now reconvening at a little bit after 11:33. Thanks for waiting whilst we deliberated. Now, I will now read out the licensing subcommittee's decision in respect of the variation of the club premises certificate for Allington Community Centre. We welcome the community engagement that is taking place and the steps that are being taken to address the noise concerns. The decision of the licensing subcommittee is to grant the application. We were keen to continue to strike the balance between promotion of the licensing objectives, bearing in mind the specific circumstances of the application. The written decision, which will be circulated shortly, will provide full details of our considerations. In the meantime, we want to thank all parties who attended, and we recognise the importance that they all play in the licensing process. Full reasons will be provided in the written decision, which will follow this hearing within 5 working days. That will include information on how a party to the application may appeal the decision if they wish. I now declare the hearing closed. Thank you.